We've got lots of folks here this morning, and several from Zingerman's community of businesses, and they'll introduce themselves in a minute as we go around. But I thought it would be useful, since we have some new folks, to kind of hear from everybody. Yeah, Roger's on the, so kind of, we should move away from the camera and kind of swing around this way a little bit if we can. Come on over this way, Alan. And Alan, who was cupping a cup of coffee here, so that's good. So I'm Rob Pasick, and I am the founder of CEOConnect. And I wanted to tell you that my concept for next year is going to be a little bit different. And and some of the people who are here don't even know yet that they're going to be asked to participate. But I'm going to be talking about major segments of Michigan business. We're going to have conversations about, like today it would be conversations about Zingerman's community of business. And then I hope to have a conversation about new energy business, and that might include Dawn, and a conversation about water, which is involves some of the companies that do water in town. A conversation about pharma. And I don't know if you noticed in the paper that Roger Newton and Tim May-Laban are going to go for an IPO with the second Hesperia, which is pretty amazing. So I worked with them on the first, and it was very exciting, and they're back at it. So there's a lot of very interesting things happening in pharma. A lot of people who have come out of the world of Pfizer have now spawned companies. So medical device is going to be another. Not-for-profit is going to be another. The healthcare system. So my idea is to have panels of 3 or 4 people and have conversations about these key topics next year. So rather than going for one person, big name kind of person, we're going to try to look at what's happening in the different thriving industries in Arbor and the whole area. So if any of you have ideas for me about this, for example, Jay just came in, and I have a woman who's really good at advertising, so we may do an advertising and marketing. Another one I think we're going to do, where's Mike Cole? Like somewhere around here.
Right here.
Mike and the folks from United, Jim, we might do something on financing startups. People don't understand the difference between, well, they understand bootstrapping and credit cards, but that's often as far as it goes. How many of you have ever used a credit card to run your business? So anyway, this is the concept for next year, and I'd love to get input from you about your interest in participating, get ideas for this, and as I kind of see it, I'll be the moderator, and we'll have an interesting conversation with the whole audience about highlighting some of the cool sectors that are going on in the business world. So anyway, what I'd like to do is have people introduce themselves, and the question I have today in the introductions is, what is the hot challenge that you have right now? If you think about, I just talked to Diane. Diane, you can start this out because you have a pressing challenge, and that kind of gave me the idea. So we're going to start right there, Diane. We'll come around. But so just say who you are and what your most pressing challenge is right now in your business. If it's personal life, that's fine. I got to put on my psychology. I can deal with that too. So.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Diane Durance, and I'm Executive Director of Great Lakes Entrepreneurs Quest, and we run a statewide business plan competition primarily to connect technology startup ventures with resources around the state. This particular cycle of the competition, we have a new track for social entrepreneurs. And it's unfortunately a short-term challenge for me because our deadline for everyone to get their business plans in is Monday at 5 o'clock. But we have 406 ventures in the competition from across the state. About half of them are social enterprises, which took us completely by surprise. And this is about 100 more ventures than we've ever had in the competition before. And the social entrepreneurs tend to be less tech savvy. So things like uploading their documents and writing a business plan and so forth, it's been very challenging for them. And so I'm looking forward to a weekend and the day Monday dealing with very panicked entrepreneurs as they try to figure out how to continue in the competition.
All right, well, that's Diane. And we're going to, for those of you who have been, we try to go around the room and do it pretty quickly, like within about maybe 15 15 minutes. So if you can think about time, that was just about right. Just try to get it brief. And if you don't have any pressing challenge, you can just leave. So, Dave?
I'm Dave Scaff. I'm head of business banking for United Bank and Trust. And I was coming in thinking about opportunities, not challenges.
Okay, well, that's an opportunity.
I will say the challenge and maybe the opportunity together is that the good news is that we have lots of money to lend, and we have an open lending window, and we're looking to put those dollars out. And businesses aren't always in the appetite these days of needing to borrow. So that's a challenge from the standpoint that we're looking to put dollars into people's hands that need it.
Hey, why don't you just sit there and we'll just turn the...
Yeah, I brought a big stack of money with me here. And, lots of good things happening in the banking world.
Okay, United Bank is one of our sponsors. It's been the sponsor of CEOConnect for about 7 or 8 years, so we appreciate your work. If you want to fund us some more, because you have that excess cash, we can try to figure out what to do.
Excellent.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Katie Doyle from Ozone House. We work with runaway and homeless youth and provide shelter, housing, and support to youth and families in need. I can help you with some of that money if you need to offload it. I would say one of our biggest challenges now, and I was just talking about this, is working with other nonprofits to figure out how we can pull out some of our back office services and work together to share those services.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Derek Thomas. I actually work here at Zingerman's Roadhouse, and I'm also an entrepreneur. Biggest challenge I think I'm facing right now has really nothing to do with business. It's just continuing to develop internally and just develop my patience and humility. I'm realizing that it's so essential and so paramount to my success and to the success of people around me. So that's the challenge that I'm dealing with right now on a daily basis.
Good morning, I'm Michael Cole at Bank of Ann Arbor. I head up a group there, the technology industry group. So we work with technology companies and venture capital firms. We certainly have the same challenge as United Bank now, with a lot of liquidity in the banking market, looking for people that are interested in borrowing it and have the capacity to pay it back. But I think one of the things that in my group that we're working on is how do we spread this kind. There's a lot of expertise in innovation and entrepreneurship and leadership in the Ann Arbor community. And so how do we kind of spread some of that across what they call the University Research Corridor? So up into East Lansing, down into Wayne State, and kind of really expand kind of what's going on here into other parts of the state.
Great.
Morning, my name is Chris Therio.
Oh, one other thing, by the way, Mike, Sonic Lunch.
Sonic Lunch starting up, yeah. First Thursday of June.
So you got Martha and Vandellas.
Yes, yes, very good.
Sorry.
No, please. I'm done.
Yeah.
No, okay.
You started your name again.
Chris Therio, third time joining this the CEOConnect, and challenges. There's two things. One, my friend John Cunningham's listened to me talk about a small company that I'm inserting myself into that manufactures furniture in Southeast Asia that I'm attempting to invest in or further invest in and move a CEO or a founder to a place where we can participate together. The second challenge that I have is learning to raise money and put a company that is a startup on a prediction market binary exchange, and I've put myself into a new place where I'm acting as a facilitator in a venture community and helping to position this company. So that's a stretch for me, something I haven't done, and both of those are sort of dual challenges. Great, thank you.
Good morning, my name is Alan Coulthard. I have a number of challenges as most do. So I work at GE Aviation down in Cincinnati, where what I tell people I do is I test jet engines, which is an interesting challenge. What we're looking for mostly is new talent in terms of engineers in those kind of areas, which isn't so easy to find. But I'm also looking for myself for new challenges in the technical validation kind of field back up here in Ann Arbor.
Alan Leibowitz. I'm with Zingerman's Coffee. I'd say our biggest challenge right now is figuring out how to expand our geography, our customer base, and still give the level of service that we'd like to give.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm James Goebel. Many of you might know me as Rich Sheridan, but being shorter, I'm there. He's busy working on his book and flying to conferences, so I get to go to many of the things that Rich normally does. Probably the biggest challenge I work on, since I focus on operations, is the timing issues as we expand, right? We've tripled our space, we've added staff, getting clients to arrive at just the right time, that you keep all those people fed and pay all the bills, and so continually trying to get that timing right, and always juggling those issues.
Hi everyone, I'm Brandon McNaughton. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm working right now with Invest Detroit as an entrepreneur in resident. Basically, I'm focusing on like the life science and med tech space. So part of expanding what we have here outside of Ann Arbor, so I go over now and to Detroit a lot, and also it's focusing on Southeast Michigan. As far as challenges, I think finding more things like this, because I can hear about coffee and jet engines in the same room. That's
I'm Charlie from Zingerman's Candy Manufactory, and we're still pretty much a startup, so everything's a challenge. Right after this, my biggest challenge is getting my sesame halva to cut. And I just thought I'd blow your mind with that.
My name is Ellen Vaughn, and I've been at CEOConnect on and off for the last few years. I've been in the process of reinventing myself, and the newest iteration is I've launched an import business of importing what I call the colorful Cameroonian collection. These are very crazily printed skirts, but done in a Western style. And I don't want to be in the retail business, so I was able to cajole 2 local retailers into carrying them. So they're available at Orchid Lane and also at Catching Fireflies. And I'm at the cusp of having decided to take the next leap and order an additional shipment, and that's my big challenges.
And Ellen's part of the club that I'm part of, which is our kids are living far, far away. And yours is in Africa, mine's in Asia. Anybody else have kids living overseas in the group? Yeah. So that's the new trend, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
I'm Amy Emberling. I'm from Zingerman's Bakehouse, and I have a very traditional challenge now. 3 key positions are going to turn over in the next 8 months. So I have a lot of anticipatory anxiety about that. On the other hand, you know, bringing up that challenges lead to opportunities. It's also a time of sort of optimism, because you never know who's going to come and what new things they may want to do or what new skills they're going to bring.
Great.
Good morning, my name is Chip Bialzak. I work for a company out of California called Del Taco. There are 5 stores here in Michigan. It's a quick service restaurant, and my particular challenge right now is trying to sort through tens of thousands of customer feedback, comments, and ratings that we get to try and make the brand more universal and take it out of this California brand and come across the country.
Good morning, Doug Armstrong, founder and directing North Star Reach, which is developing a fully accessible camp out in Pinckney on Patterson Lake for children with serious medical challenges. We're partnered with all the large health systems and hospitals in the state. The camp will be free of charge. I'm a nurse by background and researcher, and made a big career switch to chase a dream and build the camp. And my challenge is that in the next 6 to 8 months, we're about to break ground, manage an $15–16 million construction project, and prepare for year-round operations to service a couple thousand kids and their families each year.
All of a sudden, my challenges seem very small. I'm Steve Gill. I'm trustee of Washtenaw Community College, so you all voted for me for trustee. But if you have any questions about the college, please ask me. I'm also co-owner of a startup company, which is a virtual marketplace that connects people who have challenges in their organizations, facing difficulties, with experts who can help them resolve those challenges. So it's called Learning to Be Great. Go to learningtobegreat.com and you can see the resources that we have. Thank you.
I'm Roger Rayle. I'm a venture catalyst, and my biggest challenge, like it is every month, is getting here for a 7 a.m. meeting.
After he plays basketball on Thursday.
Yeah, I didn't play last night, so I'm kind of out of sorts. I did go to Hadley's. She's part of the group that's organizing Nerd Night. So Nerd Night was last night. I did video that. I video a lot of other networking groups around town. So part of the challenge is lighting, sound, knowing what's going to happen next so I can anticipate tight shot, wide shot. I started a video meetup group, Ann Arbor Video Interest Group, in January, and we regularly get 20 or 30 people every day. So if you're interested in video in any way, you need video services, we have the whole range. People that have done PBS shows to people that just do commercials and things like that. So
Roger is also one of our sponsors and has had probably the last several months of CEOConnect. He's videoed, and they're available through my website. So if you missed any of these great performances, you know,
right.
They are there. Appreciate that. Maybe get close up.
Yeah. I'm Deborah Christine. I'm a partner in B2B CFO, and like James, I have a juggling problem, but on an individual basis. Having been fully booked for like the last 8 months or so, looking at things ramping down the next month and two in a couple projects and not having any time to market. How am I going to manage that?
My name is Valerie Doctor. I'm a nurse and geriatric care manager for Care Response. We're a private duty provider here in Ann Arbor and surrounding areas. Couple challenges that never go away. Rapid growth impacting quality. You don't know you need us until you need us yesterday. Also looking at expansion, how to approach that. There are new private duty home care companies opening up daily in this area. Michigan is not a state of licensure yet, so how hard could it be if you're looking for something? Open up a home care company.
I'm Dawn White. I'm the founder and chief technology officer of Accio Energy. We're developing non-turbine wind energy technology, and my biggest challenge is the problem of finding, hiring, and retaining the top flight technical talent we need to solve a complicated science and engineering problem that nobody's ever solved before.
I'm Jenny Lewis, and I'm with the Shar Products Company. I do sales and marketing for them, been there for a long time, 12 years. Last time I was here in April, I told you that I was looking for the next big thing. Since then, I've been in the process of getting my real estate license, but my biggest challenge is trying to figure out where the best place for my communication skills would fit in this community.
Good morning, I'm Tom Kerr. I work at the VA hospital here in town, and I oversee one of our process excellence programs. Our challenge is that we're actually going through a large both growth increase as well as a number of changes in our organization. So I would say my biggest challenge right now is finding positive ways of engaging staff in change.
Hi, my name is...
You did a retreat on that yesterday, so let's talk.
Okay.
My name is Marissa Smith. I'm the owner of the Whole Brain Group, an inbound marketing company in Ann Arbor. We work with a lot of growing companies who have kind of ambitious growth goals, but don't have the sales and marketing processes in place to support those goals. And so we do a lot of content marketing and helping people establish thought leadership and relationships with their customers and that kind of thing. So my biggest challenge is we've done a really good job with our own sales and marketing, and now I need to clone myself somehow. It's a similar issue that I heard a few times, is getting all that knowledge out of my brain into the people who are working for me, and so I can sleep again.
Jim Winslow, financial advisor at...
Marissa, I've known you how long?
10 years, so it's been a consistent problem.
But you must be the most sleep-deprived person I've ever met.
That's why I wear orange, to make myself look awake.
That's good. Jim Winslow, I'm a financial advisor in the wealth management group at United Bank and Trust. I'd say one of my biggest challenges is as my business has grown over time, trying to find more efficiencies and ways to grow smartly. It's a good problem to have, but continually looking for opportunities and ways to be more efficient through whether it's technology or using people in the right way. The other challenge I have is dealing with Rob
having an office in our building now. So finds ways to harass us.
My name is Ferris Alamy. I'm with Integration Systems Management, and the biggest challenge this week is actually just finishing up writing thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes, and sending them out. That's my biggest challenge this week.
You want to say what you did for that?
Oh, so thanks to Steve, and actually thanks to this forum. Can I do this now?
Sure.
Well, okay, sure.
Yeah.
We actually launched Washtenaw Community College, had a global trade mission for their high school students in Washtenaw County. It was really Steve's work, notching Washtenaw Community College, say there's a cool program, why don't we do it here? And next thing you know, everybody at Washtenaw Community College is involved. We had a few schools participate, and it's our first year taking off. So this is happening now. This program's been going on for 15 years in other counties, and it was the first time ever in Washtenaw County, thanks to this program and thanks to Steve. So at launch, and each student got a book, about 80 pages on how to start a company and launch it internationally, utilizing technology and resources that are local here. So in 2 days, the students came together from different areas that they didn't know each other. They were paired up in teams of 4, and they were exposed to all this knowledge in 2 days, and the third day they had to present their idea and seek $1 million in funding. So all happened here at high school level at the community college. So thank you all, and thanks for the support.
Ferris has hired Steve as a coach now because Steve has won an election, and Ferris now has lost an election. We can't call him Mr. Mayor yet.
I did run for office in my city, and I'm fortunate to still continue volunteering in different ways.
Did he run you out of the city? Or?
No. Thank you.
My name is Nicole Delarnia, and I work for Brandworks Detroit. We're a full-service marketing and communications firm that specializes in strategic branding, located in Ann Arbor. And I would say that our biggest challenge, or my biggest challenge right now, is continually exploring and growing in the marketing realm. It's an ever-changing environment, and there's always room for growth and improvement.
I'm Jake, also with Brandworks Detroit, and I think our biggest challenge right now, or one of our biggest challenges, is we're actually moving our offices. And even though we're moving into the same building, into an office in the same building, it's juggling all of the details involved with the move, as well as managing the workload and so forth. So that's one of the challenges we're dealing with right now.
I'm Connie Doyle. I work in the emergency department at St. Joe. I'm deputy EMS director, and we have some healthcare challenges coming down the road, and we are already so busy we need to look at streamlining and more efficiency in both the EMS field and the emergency department.
So if we're feeling healthy, what should we be worrying about?
we keep getting more business.
Kevin Aykroyd, I work for Merrill Lynch. My biggest challenge is balancing work and having a 3- and 5-year-old.
John Cunningham, I'm an independent business development consultant. A couple things, working with Mike Nicole and Beck Arbor on the Ann Arbor Angels, and we've got a meeting coming up the first Wednesday in June, looking for active and educated angel investors. And I'm also working at Wayne State University as a mentor in residence for life science technologies, looking to find connections for a novel stem cell delivery technology.
So if you came in,
hey, I'm Lee Berry. I'm with the Michigan Theater, and our big challenge right now is an expansion of a project we started last year. We started an international film festival called Cinetopia, and we launched it in Ann Arbor last year. It's a 4-day festival with a long-term goal of being a 10-day festival as a major destination event for the whole Metro Detroit region. And this year we are expanding into Detroit. We're going to be at the Detroit Institute of Art, Detroit Film Theater. So this is June 6th through 9th, and we are very anxiously awaiting all the excitement of the festival. Thank you.
I'm
Pam Sexton. I'm a business lender at United Bank and Trust, and my challenge is keeping up with the demand that we have right now for business loans to local businesses as well as healthcare providers in the market. And on a personal note, I have a challenge of helping my recent U of M graduate find a job in the dental hygiene arena. So if anybody knows their dentist is hiring, please let me know.
I'm Rachel. I'm the not so new anymore president and CEO of the Ann Arbor Art Center.
Permanent now.
Permanent now, yes. My biggest challenge is managing change within the organization. It's interesting that everybody wants change, they're excited for it, and then when it happens, it stresses everybody out. So it's just trying to, you know, too fast, too slow, and find that right pace where I can keep everybody settled and make the changes that they need to make.
Bill Brinkerhoff.
We're talking about challenges. Bill, maybe you can talk about your success, because it's a pretty good story.
Success. So we have just sold our company in March, which is Alphacore Pharma, to AstraZeneca, and it is I'd say it's a success story for local science that came from a group of scientists in Park Davis who didn't want to move to Groton, they didn't want to leave town, and brought an early stage program in here. And then as they've developed the program, it's a program for atherosclerosis. They found great clinical data, and then a lot of companies became interested. And it shows that in Ann Arbor, companies from all over the world can come to kind of beat down the door to find good programs here, and hopefully will then attract more companies here that shows that success can take place and continue the innovation.
Bill and I are working on a couple companies now with an advisory board service. We provide quarterly meetings for companies that are trying to, most of them are not new companies, but companies that are in mid-stage and are trying to really have a growth spurt, move into some new areas. So, and Stephanie and Rachel, you guys want to stand up? And I've got a transition going on here. Maybe you guys can just introduce yourselves and say what's happening.
Most of you guys know me, but I'm Stephanie Sims. I've worked with Rob for the past 3 years, and I am actually transitioning out over the next couple of weeks, and Rachel will be Rob's new assistant. So if you guys are emailing Rob, Rachel is the person who's answering me. I am going to be going back to school. I don't have an exact field of study yet. The program's still up in the air, but I'll be going back for my PhD. So I've decided to kind of move on and focus on my academic world now instead. So, but it's been a pleasure working with all you guys over the last 3 years. It really has. Getting to know all of you.
I'm Rachel. I'm going to be Rob's new assistant. I'm also going to work a little bit with Patty Milgram, if any of you know her.
Can you give your background, because you got a link to this?
Oh yeah, I worked at Zingerman's Roadhouse for about 6 years back in the day, about 3 or 4 years ago, and recently I've been working at Liberty Athletic Club.
Okay, so if everybody can take their seats, and then we're going to bring up the folks from Zingerman's, and Derek, you can sit up with this group, because Derek's going to talk about the two stages. I want to introduce Amy Emberling. And Amy is one of the managing partners at the Bakehouse. And Chip, right now you're biting into one of her products there. So all the food that we have had here for the last several years comes from the Bakehouse, and from the coffee all comes from the coffee house. So we haven't had any candy yet. We got to add that to the mix there, Charlie. The pressure's on.
Thanks for coming, everyone. We thought that we'd come here today and talk to you a little bit about what the experience is of being a managing partner in the Zingerman's community of businesses. According to Rob, lots of people know what the structure is sort of on a theoretical level, but maybe don't always get to speak to managing partners who are living it every day to find out really what's it like to be an entrepreneur within this structure. So I hope that is interesting to you. We don't usually get to share some of the behind-the-scenes stories of how all of these philosophies and business approaches work on a day-to-day basis. What we're going to do is Alan is first just going to lay out what the kind of relationship is in the organization, because I'm sure that some of you don't really know what that is. And then Charlie is going to briefly tell you kind of what the path is to becoming a managing partner in Zingerman. And then I'm going to tell you just a few sort of big picture things that make it appealing or maybe not so appealing, depending on who you are, to be a managing partner. And then we've each chosen two sort of more nitty-gritty, granular aspects of the experience that we want to speak to that probably doesn't get spoken about so much in public. So it's not our dirty laundry, but it's just, you know, we don't usually talk about what the operations are like and what those relationships are like. And Derek is here because he participates and sees it happening on a daily basis and probably has a different perspective. We are going to try to take questions sort of in between topics, but I'll try to keep us on track too so we get to actually share everything we wanted to share. Okay? So thanks.
Just a quick intro. I'm Alan Leibowitz. I started Zingerman's Coffee in 2003, and like many of the partners, the things you'll hear is a lot of people that come in, we like to have people start in a business. So I actually worked at the deli briefly and then was going to do coffee, and Paul said, hey, we're opening up this thing called the Roadhouse, and I started working with the beverage side of things here, and did some of the training programs for wine, managed the bar side for a little bit. So I think that's going to be a little theme that you'll see. So broadly, I know a lot of people here may have heard about the Zingerman structure. Ari Weinswag, along with Paul Saginaw, started the company 30 years ago, 30-point-something years ago. Ari's written a lot about it, so I don't want to go over some of the details, and we have a lot of our bankers here who are probably intimately familiar with the structure. But the Reader's Digest version is this. I think really the one-sentence history is Ari and Paul wanted to realize pretty quickly they wanted to create a larger opportunity for people that worked at the deli. They started off pretty simply. We want to make a great sandwich, a great deli sandwich. And at some point they realized if you were a manager at the deli, that was about what you were going to be. So they said, well, how do we create more opportunity for people? And then they got people who were enthusiastic and wanted to open up a food-related business in Washtenaw County. They wanted people that wanted to be the best in whatever business they were going to be, like the Bakehouse, which I believe was the first business that spun off. And it kind of grew from there. So in terms of structure, which is kind of interesting, a lot of people think of Zingerman's as one company. In fact, Zingerman's, I think now is, we like to say 9 businesses. There's a couple of other small businesses along with that. I think there's at least one company that owns some real estate. But Ari and Paul started this deli. They then created a company called Dancing Sandwich Enterprise. Dancing Sandwich Enterprises is a partner with the people that are the managing partners in the deli. As they expanded, Dancing Sandwich Enterprises partnered up with Frank and Amy, you know, the Zingerman's Bakehouse, the coffee company, the candy manufactory, the Roadshow, which has a little different structure, but it's really not that complicated, right? You've got Ari and Paul are Dancing Sandwiches, then we've got these 9 independent businesses. Independent, we like to consider it, I frequently describe it as a loose confederation of businesses. So there's some common ownership at the top, which is Ari and Paul. There are a couple of different business forms. There's a combination of C Corps, LLCs, maybe somebody might be an S Corp. But you have managing partners that are responsible for the day-to-day operations of the business. We have a shared services group, which is currently owned by Dancing Sandwich Enterprises, and that performs common functions for the groups. So marketing and graphics, IT, payroll, HR, all the benefits administration. So that, because we're this kind of confederation, there are some services which we are viewed as a single group. So for healthcare, Zingerman's is considered as one entity. For our workman's comp, we're all pooled together. So that's kind of some of the mechanics. On a day-to-day running the business, even though we're 9 businesses and we plan each of the businesses independently, we all meet. So collectively there are 18 partners in 9 businesses. We meet twice a month and we make a lot of decisions collectively. So if there's any decision that's going to affect the business as a whole, like who we're going to choose for our healthcare insurance for the year, all those decisions are made collectively. If we're going to revise the employee manual to have a no 3-piece suit policy in our HR manual. We make those kind of decisions using a consensus model, which is a little bit different. On a consensus model, all 18 partners agree to a decision that we have. And we have pretty well documented, although not rigorously, it's not like a 40-step manual, but broadly speaking, we make decisions using a consensus model, which means we are all in a agreement with the decision. I think the specific language we use is 80% agreement, but 100% support. And so if we're making a decision and somebody is an outlier that says, I absolutely cannot live with this, we have a pretty straightforward method of doing things. We have somebody come up with an alternative proposal. It's pretty unique. It's, we've got 9 businesses that collectively are somewhere in the 40 million plus range a year, and we still meet every other week, and that's one of the commitments is that we all collectively, I believe, work together as partners, even though we may not be directly responsible to each other. We also buy and sell from each other, which is one of the things we're going to start talking about. So Amy and Frank at Dancing Sandwich Enterprises sell to me as the coffee company. They sell to the Roadshow, they sell to the deli. On the flip side, they buy our product. So and then we also sell, obviously, to other external customers. I believe about 60% of what we call the wholesale producers, which are the bake shop, the coffee company, and the creamery, we sell to the outside world. And you may see our products up in Plum or Bushes. And candy. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm not trying to select Charlie. So any questions on the structure?
So how do you manage the financial side? Is that shared as well?
Could you repeat the question? Yeah, the question is how do we manage the financial side? Is that shared? And the short answer is the 9 businesses really run independently. We have planning and accountability is really at the business level. The only thing that's really shared again is that little piece of common ownership. But if we're starting a new business and that requires startup capital, that also comes primarily from Dancing Sandwich Enterprises, Paul and Ari, or the business that's starting up.
The businesses are financially independent from one another. So they're just like any other business in this room. Your business would have the same relationship to Zingerman's Deli as my business, Zingerman's Bakehouse, would have to Zingerman's Deli.
Why not just all one business and to limit liability, or why can't all of these various entities come underneath one business?
Well, because the idea was that to give the opportunity for people who were entrepreneurs and who had a particular passion to run their own business and not to be sort of VPs of a corporation. So the people who come into the business are people who want to own their own business and rather than be in a corporation. And this gives us that opportunity. It also allows each business to be sort of very nimble on itself. So it's not transfer payments between Zingerman's Candy Company and Zingerman's Delicatessen. It's a real market. So it's real business. And it was just a choice, a decision that was made early on about how we wanted to do it.
How many of the 18 partners are former employees? Is that like a prerequisite, or how does that work?
Well, everybody now has to work in the organization for at least a year before they could become a managing partner. But I think if we count, I have counted, it's at least 50% at this point.
Yeah, I can only think of one or two that didn't come from within. You know, as a good example, that would be, you know, Derek has been working inside the company for quite a while. So when Derek spins out whatever the next great idea is, you will have had that experience. So you learn a lot about the culture of the systems. Just, you know, to add one other thing about, you know, why not have it all be one business? That would be a great question for Ari. I can see the benefit appears to me that if you were one business, then Ari and Paul would have been in, you know, essentially the business of running multiple businesses. And it's one of the reasons we don't, you know, franchise. There are multiple locations. Then you're in the business of managing multiple locations, not doing what you love to do. So if Charlie likes making candy, that's what he likes doing. He just doesn't like managing, you know, 5 stores that are making candy.
You guys want to go on with the presentation? Maybe we can pick up, because probably the questions will go on for a long time.
Can we get one last question from Ellen?
I just wondered, are the cultures essentially the same across the lines of business, or are there variations?
Well, we certainly hope so. We have kind of a business perspective chart that everybody looks at. And there is culture, there are systems, there's bottom line, there's the vision. So overall, there is a common culture.
But there are variations on the theme. You know, the minute you're in a different building, you're doing different work, it changes somewhat, but there is, you know, standardized training across the organization, a common language, so the culture is quite uniform. Do you want to talk about becoming a managing partner?
Yeah, actually, your question was how many of them came from the business, and I'm one that, a lot like what Derek's doing. I had worked at Zingerman's before, at the delicatessen, made salads, worked there for only 4 months, because that was the plan, and then I was off into the world, literally. But in 4 months, I had soaked up enough that it really drew me back. It was an alignment thing, okay? And basically, it just resided in the food. And being around people that were, you know, had the same passion that I had about, you know, food, delicious and everything. So when I came back, I already knew I wanted to have my own Zingerman's business. I already knew about their vision for 2009. I came back in 2001. And I approached Amy and Frank at the Bakehouse because my background was pastry. Didn't know if they were hiring at all. I just showed up on their back door and said, you know, I really want to be a part of this organization again, and here's why. So in my interviews, talked immediately about having my own business and being a managed partner. Amy was like, slow down, maybe you should work here for a little bit first in a manager level position and see what it's like. And so that's what I did. So my path to partnership, before there was actually a formalized document, which we have now, was to kind of be in the organization and learn it from basically the back door forwards. So after nailing down that I wanted to really make candy bars and have a candy manufactory, and then kind of laying it into pastry and embedding it there and having it incubate with the help of the Bakehouse, financially and emotionally and everything else, educationally. Then started approaching the partners group, started attending the partners group on a regular basis. And then, you know, 6 years later, which is a really long time to pull that off, made a presentation, you know, drew it out of the Bakehouse with a lot of help and separated it so that it was a new business and then became a managing partner of that business. So I kind of created the history, tried to create the product, tried to create the, you know, the need to see it all work, try it all out. Now there's a process for that. And a great example would be Sahn Street at Mark's Carts, where she is trying out this concept to see, you know, is this going to work? And then she can go from there. Now there's a formalized structure with a definite, you know, timeline where you know where you're going to land on that timeline. There are very few questions about what is this individual doing and at what point are they in this process of, you know, starting a business and becoming a managing partner. In a nutshell, there was a committee formed and they really made sure that a lot of the questions that used to come up with, where is this person now? You know, 5 years later, we heard you wanted to do this, but now we're not quite sure because we haven't heard anything. Now there's a very documented timeline of what somebody does when they have an idea and they've created a vision and they've started talking to people, and this is what their passion is.
What do you think it is about the Zingerman's culture that kind of sets people up to be able to run those businesses ultimately, or that grows that type of ownership mentality out of the people who work here?
I think that, like for me, it was just kind of the energy involved in wanting to be an entrepreneur and just being in an organization that just naturally, I mean, it kind of has the power to attract that to itself, because that's true, it really does happen that way. And then just a lot of practice, really.
What about like the open book?
Everything about it, yeah, open book helps tremendously, because if you don't know these things, it can be quite a surprise when all of a sudden the glamour's worn off and it's like, really? I'm going to pay for that? Yeah.
You can't just give everybody raises, but...
I think for me, in the position that I am, looking at everything, one of the things that's been tremendously helpful for me is, like you mentioned, the open book financing, just being exposed to different systems and different best practices that a business uses to become sustainable, because anybody can start up a business and anybody can run a business for a year or two, but how do you sustain a business? How do you endure success, and how do you continue to grow? And that's one of the things that I've been able to be exposed to, that I could have never placed myself in a situation where I would get that type of experience. And to answer your question, for me, being able to watch leaders in action every single day is one of the greatest gifts that I have here. It's almost as if you're sitting on the bench and you're Aaron Rodgers and you get to watch Brett Favre go out and play every single day. And so you're just sitting there taking mental notes. And when the coach taps you on the shoulder and tells you it's your time to go in, now you have all of these images that you've taken in. You have all of this knowledge that not only has Brett Favre shown you by you observing him, but he's taking you off to the side. And he's like, hey, did you see what I did right here? Did you see when the defensive back came up and he bit it and I gave him a pump fake? You know, this is Ari, this is Paul, this is Alan. These are everybody coming in here. They're just a wellspring of knowledge and a wellspring of assistance and support. And I don't have to ask, they just give it to me.
Well, it's there for the taking. You know, there's this responsibility involved too.
I was gonna say, I hear it on both sides, is the willingness to do it, and then you're actually, you acknowledge and you realize what a gift you have, and not everybody has that, and not everybody has the
sharing.
Right.
And for people that want it, it really is just there on the table, but you have to kind of pick it up and run with it. No one's going to do it for you.
Okay, I think that's actually a good segue into the next section. So just some really, really big picture things about the organization. So if somebody is in the organization now and is looking at it or looking on the outside and thinking about whether you would want to be a managing partner here, there's some very defined things at this point, 31 years in. When Frank Pirola became the managing partner of the Bakehouse, most of this was not defined, so his choice was a very, very different one. But now, for better or worse, a lot of things are defined. Just to let you know, there is room for change. A big part of this organization is that if anybody wants to change something, you can bring up a proposal and you can change it. So although I would say the mission of the organization is pretty firm and probably not going to change, somebody could propose to actually change the mission. So what are the things that are defined that really help us all make a decision about whether it would be a good fit? The first thing is that we have a very, very clear vision. So Alan referred to the vision of 2009. That one is done. and that vision was written by Ari and Paul. But right now we're working on the vision of 2020, which was created by all the managing partners with a lot of feedback from everybody in the organization who wanted to give feedback. So I'm not going to go into the details of that vision. It's a strategic document. And so if somebody was considering whether they wanted to be a managing partner, they would have a very good idea of where the rest of us are planning on going in the next 7 years. And if it seemed like it was an exciting place to go, then they could say, yeah, I want to sign up for that. But if it really seemed like it was not a place they wanted to go, then that would really be wonderful information for them to have. I'm not always sure that when we become partners with someone without sort of written documents and clarity like that, that you always know what's going to happen. Of course, we don't know for sure, but we have a good idea of at least where we're trying to head. The other thing is that we have completely defined guiding principles. I know that everybody in this room has values and principles, whether we've documented them or defined them, and that all of our businesses have them. We don't always define them. But in our organization, they're documented and defined, and everybody has access to them and are actually taught them. So you kind of know when you're coming, do these values match my values? Do I want to be a part of this? I think some of the toughest problems that we've ever had in the organization, harkening back to what's the biggest challenge, is when we've had members of the organization who are really great performers, but our values are not aligned. Because it's very difficult to overcome that value difference. So it's been helpful for us to document and communicate those values so that future possible partners know whether they match their personal values. Then there are three kind of key things that we use to run the organization. One of them we already mentioned, and that was open book management. Sometimes people call it open book finance. So one of the ways we prepare people to be partners is that we teach everybody about the finance of the organization and we share all the numbers. I got to tell you, I sort of wish that I had grown up in this organization because I feel like it is really a gift to have that level of education and being paid to get that education rather than paying to get it. But part of that everybody has to think about as an owner is whether you're comfortable with sharing all that information. And I know that some organizations hold that information a lot more closely, but in our organization, the only thing that's not shared is people's personal compensation, and actually we're discussing that right now and whether we'll open that to everybody in the future. But everybody knows what the revenue is, everybody knows what the expenses are, everybody knows what the cash position is of each business, or anyone who wants to know, and it's shared weekly at meetings, and everybody knows what the net operating profit is. So there are no secrets, and there's lots of discussion, and we engage everybody in actually running the business. And I think that can be a really big difference about whether you want to do that or not. Also, we practice servant leadership. I'm not going to go into the details of that. It's a pretty involved philosophy about how to lead and manage, but the basis of it is that as leaders of the organization, we're here to support the success of other people. The basic difference between a very traditional sort of power-centered business model and a power-centered business model that most of us are used to, this is the org chart, right? The CEO is at the top, or the owner's at the top, and the energy is going up. The value often goes to the top. In a servant leadership organization, you flip the chart around. So it's like this. So the CEOs or leaders are at the bottom, then the managers, then the staff, and hopefully the energy goes out to either the food or the customers. Whoever, if you're working behind the scenes, you're making the food, if you're in front of the house, the energy is going to the customers. So it's our role to make sure that the people in the organization are successful so that we can eventually provide the value to our community and to our customers. That's a pretty different approach. It's pretty egoless, and there's a lot of giving. There's not a lot of taking in this organization. And then the final thing that I think is really different is that we operate from 3 bottom lines. I know that 3 bottom lines is something that we hear about now all over the place. Our 3 bottom lines were created sort of in the mid-90s, and they're not the 3 bottom lines that we hear about. Environment's not one of them. Not that we don't care about the environment, but it happens not to be one of them. So it's great food, great service, and great finance. They are all equally important to us. And that's not lip service. It's not that the food and the service is really just a means to an end to the finance. I have to tell you, when I first came to the organization, I grew up in a family business. Profit was a good thing in our family. It was talked about at the dinner table night. But one of the first times I heard Ari speak, he sort of said that he was uncomfortable with profit. No one in his family was a business person. I thought, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding. Like, where am I, and do I want to be here? But anyway, but what we've learned is that profit is just one of the things, and that really in our organization, people care more about making sure the food is great and the service is great, and that the profit will come afterwards. The way I like to think about it is that we don't try to maximize profit. We actually try to maximize the food, maximize the service, and then have an optimal or sustainable level of profit. Now, not all entrepreneurs maybe are going to want to work in that model. We're not trying to make as much money as we possibly can, and whatever money we do make, we actually do a lot of sharing of that money. So, does anyone have any questions about those sort of big picture things before we go into kind of the day-to-day of how that all works?
just out of curiosity, how do you share your financials? Is that something that's on your intranet, or how does that get shared?
Yeah, so we have a weekly, what we call huddles. They're sort of between 10 minutes and 30-minute meetings in almost every department in every business. Or if the business is very small, then it can be the entire business meeting for 10 minutes to maybe even an hour. And we create what we call a departmental operating report, where we choose the key metrics that that group wants to measure for the year. And so that's the main area where people get that information. We don't actually generally hand out the P&Ls, just because most people don't want to see all of that. And at different huddles, we may have, little different metrics. And then in classes, we teach what those metrics mean and how people can impact all of those things.
Question about quality. I mean, I know all your products are first rate, but how do you talk about quality? I mean, it's not just you want to start a business, but I know there must be some standards for what it is. But how do you talk about that?
Well, most of us have a pretty high level of taste and flavor, and you kind of know that quality isn't going, I mean, a poor quality isn't going to sustain a lot of the things that we're kind of out for. I mean, you can get great service, but if you've got a subpar product, it's just not going to last. And we are very passionate about, great coffee or a great flavored, pastry, or, an excellent barbecue. So it's, I don't want to say that it's unconsciously competent, but it can seem that way. Am I getting towards the answer that you're looking for?
Yeah, I just wanted the standards seem to be really high about,
We do a lot of tasting, a lot of comparative tasting. We teach a lot of classes where we'll take individual ingredients that might exist in a single product, just so that you can see what the difference is, and explain what the taste difference is to people who may or may not know. In a lot of cases, sometimes people don't know what a real product will taste like compared to something that's of a lesser quality, for instance. When you go ahead and make a coffee cake with all these really great ingredients, all of a sudden quality starts making sense. A good quality, high quality, really high standards.
To kind of piggyback off of Charlie as well, the three bottom lines play a significant role in the quality aspect of it, because what he's saying is that we're trying to find the best product that we possibly can deliver to our guests. But at the same time, we have to find balance with finance as well. We don't want to go out and get the best product, but it has a terrible price point or margin. And so achieving that balance, achieving the quality ingredients while still maintaining that level of integrity as far as our finance is extremely important for us.
TV time out. On what you said, Derek, Zingerman's is legendary in this area, and you'll find people who have a wide following, and then you'll talk to people that they're not naysayers, but they're a little more critical and saying, well, yes, because you can charge $15 for a sandwich, and you can do this, and you don't have to compete at that lower level. What do you say back, and how do you respond to that kind of comment?
You say, no. You say, no. You say, nobody handed us this market. It's not that we Zingermans can. It's about having a vision of being a leader, and then really sticking to what you say you want to do, and educating people about what is the flavor difference. Nobody has to buy that $15 sandwich or that $4.95 brownie. No, so it's about educating and sticking to your values about what you want the food to be, and asking people to pay what you think the real value of it is. But about the food quality, we have a lot of systems. We measure the quality of the food every day. Alan is doing, all over the organization, people are tasting the coffee every single morning and scoring it and putting it on our internal intranet. At the Bakehouse, there's 30 items that we bake that we taste for flavor, texture, and appearance every single day and measure it. And we track those numbers, so at one of our huddles we go over what the tasting score is on the pastries, on the breads, or on the soups. So there's attention to that done every single day.
There's also the cost of ingredients, which might sound obvious, but I mean, when you're paying to put great ingredients in there, if you do have to price it right, I mean, we certainly could go out of business using the best ingredients, but not being responsible about what we charge for.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Okay, so Alan's going to start with a couple of sort of more nitty-gritty, what's it like to be here?
Yeah, we thought we'd talk about some things that are highlights and I guess challenges of the model and being part of the Zingerman's community. And hopefully I think some of these things will answer some of the questions, like pricing or what product mix or quality. So one of the first things we talked about, Amy and Charlie and I the other day, one of them was brand identity. So one of the kind of the positives when you're starting up a new business, like Derek starts up a business tomorrow, you get a couple of things. You get within some regional scope, a lot of brand identification. People know our name. We get a certain legitimacy that comes with it. We've historically, I think, been predominantly known for carrying high quality product. It's kind of assumed that if we start something, we are going to be okay at what we're doing, or pretty good at that. So the positive sides, if you're starting up a new business, you get instant brand identification. You get some built-in market because the other Zingerman's businesses will support you in any way they can. So if you're starting up, candy was a great one. All of the businesses carry Charlie's product, so you have an instant market. So that helps you as you're then building your sales. And in fact, I can say that a few of the small businesses, when we started, you could start and be profitable from day one selling just internally. Then after that, you've got the growth issues, which are kind of all your own. So that's kind of the plus side. Some of the challenges with that, there are some fees associated with being part of the Zingerman's business. You're paying for all those shared services, and we do that by essentially taking a percentage of your sales that goes into some of the shared services. You can't really split out those shared services. So if you're a small business, you don't have the option of saying, look, I don't need to pay into the workman's comp pool or the insurance pool, or you can't say I'm not going to need an OSHA compliance group that makes sure that you're doing the right things because you're two people in a room somewhere. The other challenge on that is kind of, again, your strength is your weakness. You have a certain brand identity, and to some extent that may affect your personal creativity on some things. If you have an idea that you want to come in and have, I don't know, Zingerman's smoked fish hut, and you want it to have a really Spartan, austere, like Dean and DeLuca, and look where everything's white and clean and simple, that might not be the look that you have, or that Zingerman's as a whole portrays. It's not really limiting per se, it's just a challenge. We've found ways to make each of the businesses kind of unique, yet still kind of feel like Zingerman's. One other thing we talked about a little was the reputation, and there's been some interesting challenges. Zingerman's was noted for really traditional foods. There was a heavy emphasis coming from a deli. So when we're looking at new opportunities like San Street, which is doing Asian food, it's a little bit of a challenge saying, look, you've got a 30-year reputation as being a deli. Why, should we think you're an expert in Korean food?
Corner.
That's just kind of a challenge for us. Then the other thing that's kind of interesting, I don't know if this is just Ann Arbor, which is still a relatively small town, but there's a positive and negative. We had wholesale customers that have said, we don't want to use your product because we want to use anything but Zingerman's. It's like you guys are the, right. Thank you for not letting me grasp for a good way to put that. But they said, we want to do our own thing. We don't really want to be associated with you. We need to have our own reputation, and we don't want to feel like have people come in and feel like you're a Zingerman's business. So we've had some customers with coffee that either have said, we just flat out don't want to use you, or we've had people that said, we'd like to use you, but we're going to not advertise the fact that it's Zingerman's. Which, in some respects is fine. I would imagine that the Bakehouse has a number of restaurants in town that are other restaurants, and we generally, Paul Saganow's been very good about this. We don't usually consider people competitors per se. It's a big market. The food industry is huge. You know, we don't desire or want to be, you know, the only people in town. It's the bigger the market is, the bigger it is for everybody, and kind of everything we do. There are different roles for people to play. There are different, you know, segments of the market, and we just kind of like to do the one that we like to do.
Any questions about that?
You know, at first when I started, I was like, man, I want to go after every single account. I want everybody to be a Zingerman's Coffee for sale customer. And we had a lot of people that said, hey, I want to pay, I'm getting coffee from another supplier in New York and it's half what yours is. And they're using like the equivalent of, you know, synthetic powdered coffee. We're like, you know what, that's great, you should do that. More and more, I've learned a lot of these things with Zingerman's that you'll find is that we all kind of like what we do. I mentioned briefly that we have some support that we get from the shared services. Again, that's both good and bad. The good part of some of the shared services are you can come in and be one person and you can get a tremendous amount of help. You can get really some world-class help on financing and accounting, where somebody will work with you and do a 5-year pro forma before you even start. And it's, you know, realistic, it's tight, it's something you can take to the bank, you know, kind of literally. So that part's good. You get finance, you get instant IT, you've got what has been pretty successful marketing and graphics group that does a very good job with our look and feel. One thing I think maybe I'll stop there and let that go on, unless there's any questions about shared services or reputation.
You talk about classes. How often are you offering these classes? To whom? You know, where? When?
We offer classes. We have a calendar. I would bet in any given month there's 30 different classes. We teach them all. Everybody that starts in Zingerman's has what's called a training passport, and virtually everybody in the company has a set of classes. They have to take a great service class, a food safety class, interestingly enough, a knife safety class, even if you're going to be a graphic artist. And then you have specific ones for your business. And almost everybody takes a financial literacy class. You can talk to somebody who's at mail order that has been there for 2 weeks that's doing whatever they're doing, portioning cheese. And when you go to our huddle with the departmental operating report, I would say within a month, everybody in that room can look and see your NLP and say, are we, you know, above or below plan? If we're below plan, how are we going to affect it? And I've seen this happen, and it's pretty cool. They've gone to a finance class, and they'll say, well, look, we need to either increase sales or we need to decrease expense. And these might be people who have, you know, never seen a balance sheet in their life. So there's a lot of training.
Where are those classes held?
They're held in all of the businesses. They're all over. They might be, you know, in this room on Tuesday, over at our location by the Bakehouse, you know, some other day of the week, but pretty much I would bet almost every day. In fact, if you want, on the way out, I can see if we can grab one of the calendars and you can actually see the depth of classes.
Well, one of the things that I found interesting too when I started working here was they don't just offer classes just to help you do your job better. They offer you classes if you want to own a home and you're a first-time home buyer. They offer you classes if you're terrible with personal finance and you need help learning how to budget and learning how to manage your finances. So the wealth of knowledge is tremendous. It's ridiculous because they have a university. Like who would have ever thought that you would go to university at Zingerman's, you know what I mean, and get an associate's and get a bachelor's, and they pay you for it. So it's like, it's the best of both worlds. I almost feel bad when I leave sometimes because I'm getting paid for the stuff that I'm doing. But like Amy said, I should be paying them and I should be giving them.
I said I wish I had grown up here.
Are you going to talk about Zing Train eventually, or
do you have a question about Zing Train?
Well, I just want to. I've been through some Zing Train classes, and for everybody else here who would be happy, we could take a lot of these same courses that they're describing as outsiders, and they're fabulous classes, really worth it.
And they feed you all.
I also want to comment on classes that each of you run. I don't know if you do this, Charlie, but how to understand baking. I know you run a lot of baking. My sons and I took Alan's coffee class, and it was great because they gave us, I think it was one type of coffee, but they made it 6 ways, and you can really learn. I could learn to taste. What I liked, and really ended up learning to brew a good cup of coffee much better. And so I think whatever and I'm a coffee, that's probably my major thing. If I go to the coffee house creamery and eat some ice cream, I'm a happy man. But so the knowledge of the customer, making the customer knowledgeable and better at what they do, I think it's another really unique, and it's every business. It's not just the Bakehouse, where there's a lot of baking classes going on right now, but it's a lot of food.
It's in our best interest, actually, to share that information with you, and just as quite a simple analogy that might be easy to latch onto, it's like my mom's a potter, okay, and so she's teaching at, she was teaching down at one of the oldest potteries in the country, which is in Detroit, it's Kowabic. And when they open a kiln that everybody has their stuff in, she's telling people, and her expertise is glaze, so when she can describe to anybody why something's great, all of a sudden they have an appreciation for it. And we would get upset with her because she'd be opening this kiln down in Kowabic, we're not there, and we know about what she's got in there, and we have an appreciation for it. But she's teaching everybody that's seeing this stuff for the first time, and she's selling it hot right out of the kiln because all of a sudden people understand why they would want that.
I didn't pay $25 for Alan's class. I bought $250 worth of coffee.
Good job, Alan.
I just kind of add to answer for you though is that everybody that starts in as a new employee goes through an orientation period of about 60 days where they've got a passport and full classes that are kind of mandatory that they need to take, and they're everything from finance classes and understanding how that healthcare system works for benefits and all of that kind of stuff. And taking classes that are like the artisan pastry and artisan bread and stuff like that. So it starts from day one, and it's kind of a culture that goes across the board.
What is your turnover compared to industry?
Well, the turnover is somewhere between 25 and 30%. And then who do we really compare ourselves to? I mean, I think McDonald's is more like, I don't know, is it 300% or something? But,
But you're not McDonald's.
we're not McDonald's, right? So, it would be nice if it were a little bit lower, but it's not hurting the organization. There's sort of a fringe that turns, and it depends on each business. Well, the deli has a lot of students or people from the university, college students, and it makes sense that turns over.
You're alumni then.
Yeah, right.
Could you also come in and Alan gave some great examples of some of the challenges. How about for you guys?
Well, for me, being kind of what we still consider a startup, we have a lot of challenges about getting a business sustainable and going. Having a great product is one thing. Selling it, making cash, and paying up your bills, that's another thing too. When you're a really small company, amidst some of the more mature companies, like the Bakehouse has been around a lot longer than the candy manufacturer has. The deli has a lot more employees than the candy manufacturer has. We have 2 people in the kitchen. Right now we have 1 person in the kitchen because I'm here. So some of the challenges are how do you perform as a partner when you have these strings pulling you so tightly to being on the floor. The definition of a managing partner is that they're driving the business, they're on the floor, they're in the kitchen, they're talking to sales and making it work. So that can be a challenge a lot of the time. Missing meetings because there's too many of them and you want to be at all of them. There's a lot of information to know. So as a really small business amidst really large businesses, sometimes that can be a challenge. But one of the advantages is that you're around more mature businesses that can answer a lot of questions for you and provide a lot of help and support. So when we just had the idea of making candy, I had the benefit of actually existing within, managing a department in a larger business that had a very entrepreneurial approach and supported my idea and put things out like cash to buy an Arbor when we got tired of dipping everything by hand. So it goes both ways, really.
So I know, for instance, in the South Line coffee shop, I've seen Zingerman's bread, bakery. Who's in charge of then taking the candy concept, cross-selling where that's all in? Just curious.
Right, so I think that leads into one of the challenges that I was going to speak to, and that's sort of the business relationships between the businesses. And so the candy manufacturer is responsible for selling candy to all of the other parts of the business as well as to whoever else that they want to sell to. So within the organization we have some businesses that we refer to as producers, so artisans like coffee or creamery, the Bakehouse and candy. And then we have the retailers or the restaurants like the deli, the Roadhouse here, on Street that's coming up. And there's some and mail order, huge, right. So there's some real challenges. The first one, just for everybody, is sometimes there are sort of turf wars. Who gets to sell what? So Zingerman's Roadhouse does a fair amount of catering. Zingerman's Deli had a long established catering business before the Roadhouse started. Sometimes there's a little tension between the two of them about, are we going after the same market and what can we do so that, there's room for each of us. And when they're both doing Thanksgiving dinner, then there's a pricing challenge. Okay, what exactly are you selling and how does that taste and what are you charging for it? And what am I selling and how does it taste compared to what you're selling and how much are you selling it for? And many of you see us all as one, so it could be very confusing. Why is there a flyer from the Roadhouse and dinner is $30 and why is there a flyer from the deli and dinner is $25 and why are the items different? So that's one example of sort of a little bit of a turf war. Another example is Zingerman's Zingtrain. Zingtrain has done a lot of consulting for businesses that I might consider to be my competitors. For a long time, Great Harvest was a very big client of theirs. They had Great Harvest franchisees owners from all over the country coming in, and certainly from southeastern Michigan, and they were telling them all about Zingerman's business practices. Avalon Bakery was a big customer of theirs. They did a big visioning session with them. So I might say, gosh, Maggie, why are you training my competition? Another example of that sort of conflict. And then there is the challenge of the producers selling to the retailers or the restaurateurs in the organization because no one is obligated to buy from us, and we are actually not obligated to make or provide any service that they request of us. So there are quality discussions. I don't like the bread that you made. I think the candy is too expensive. I want a different price on it. I think you should deliver to me 6 times a day rather than 4 times a day. And all of those things are open to negotiation. A few more examples that I
have an example of that too. It's for the consumers. Like when I go to your Allen's to get coffee, I want bread, a sandwich, I got to walk down. Right. And I always say to Alan, why don't you carry, why can't I get a corned beef sandwich in here, or whatever. So it's confusing, I think, sometimes. It is.
That's what I say. Actually, my partner, Frank Rollo, who likes to count things, told me that it's 81 steps of his step from the door of the bake shop to the door of the coffee company. No, but that when the Bakehouse was at the south side for probably 12 years before any of the other Zingerman's businesses came, and then the creamery came, and then the coffee company came, and there were discussions. Well, what are you going to sell there? Because I don't know that we really want to be in competition with one another. And so we talk about what morning pastries are you going to have, what makes sense. Are you going to have lunch stuff? I don't know, I don't really like that. I spent 15 years out here trying to build up a lunch business, and then you walk in and then you just sort of take some of that lunch business. Or we had big coffee sales, and then he comes and he's, so now our coffee sales pretty much don't exist, but that was which was fine. That was one that was fine. But we have those discussions because it's not all clear, and there's no one who's going to tell us what the rule is, and sometimes it can get a little heated.
So how do you resolve it then?
We keep coming to the table and talking to each other until we come to some understanding.
What's interesting is these seem to have, they always work out. There might be a little angst about it. A lot of it, it's, you know, it's discussion. It's also, you know, planning. Like we weren't asked, because we wanted to be cognizant of it, we don't want to carry all the pastry that Amy carries. At the end, on the flip side of that is we're actually selling bakery product. So they might lose coffee sales, they might gain pastry sales. I think we had that same tension when the Roadhouse first opened. You know, it's like at some point Alex had some sort of bourbon on the menu. And it's like, look, you know, it's different. It's not the same one you get at the deli. And there's kind of, Paul likes to talk about this, you know, zone where you basically have the fear of, you know, the unknown, you know, doubt. And at the end of the day, all of these things seem to have worked out. Broadly, we work with a spirit of cooperation where we're committed to each other's mutual success. It's all worked out. The deli is bigger than they were 10 years ago when the Roadshow started, or the Roadhouse, sorry. The Roadhouse is much bigger than they were. Amy's selling, on a whole, the bake shop is bigger, even though we're right next door and the creamery is right next door.
I wonder if Derek could talk back. Derek, I've talked to Derek over the last couple of years, and he's talked about how much this has meant to him. But he's also trying to start a business and learning about that. But could you tell us, from the, I know that there's probably people here that are thinking, well, gee, I'd like to start Zingerman's business. What do you say, there's 12 to 20 more businesses that you guys are talking about in the next 10 years or something in your vision?
So the 2010, the 2020 vision is 12 to 18 businesses.
12 to 18 total, so another 10 to 11. So, you know, those are people, there's food people here. How many of you would think about a Zingerman's business? Are people here kind of thinking about that, food people? Okay. So, Derek, what about, maybe you can talk a little bit about your business and what it's like to try to think about starting something.
It's been a long journey, and like I mentioned earlier, learned a tremendous amount of patience and humility, and it's paid off. It's paid huge dividends because everything that I was lacking before I came to work here, because I had a business plan, I had the passion, I had the ambition and the desire, but what I would find when I would go to talk to investors and when I would look to form an alliance with someone or a partnership to go to the next step of my business, they were a little bit apprehensive because of my lack of experience in the restaurant industry and because of my lack of experience in handling exactly what it is I was trying to create. And so it was extremely frustrating and discouraging because of all of the work and all of the time that I put into it. And so fortunately, I sent up a lot of prayers and put a lot of thought into it, and eventually was brought here by his business partner, Steve. He noticed me at a marketing event, and we had a discussion, and then next thing you know, I'm here. And all of the holes that my resume had, all of the holes that my portfolio had, all of the holes that I had internally, the lack of confidence and the lack of self-esteem that I had, all was dissolved away once I came here. And there's been multiple opportunities for me to take that next step with my business, but I've been just patiently waiting for the right opportunity, and fortunately it's come. So it looks like I may be taking that next step in August, and I'm going to be launching my restaurant out in Warren. So it's been a tremendous blessing, and it's been a tremendous journey. And had I not been here, I wouldn't have been able to get the training and wouldn't have been able to get the knowledge and the tools that I needed to be able to continue to move forward. So again, it's a tremendous testament to what hard work does, what faith does, and my belief in my Creator, I think, has been paramount in this. So hopefully that kind of answered the question.
Well, we got probably another 10 minutes or so maybe we should open it up. I just want to make one other comment. Not just, you know, you all met Rachel, and I want to talk about another way that Zingerman's penetrates the community. One of the reasons that I was very interested in Rachel's resume compared to other people I talked to is she does have the Zingerman's experience. And as I'm talking to her and beginning to train her, Stephanie's trainer, we're realizing that she's bringing some of that ideas about the Zing experience, you know, like customer service and marketing and look and things like that to my business. And I think there's many other people in this town that have been trained by Zingerman's that do not have the Zingerman's name on them. I know one is one of my second favorite places to eat, which is Zola's. And I believe the Zola's, Henia was it? Henia started with Zingerman's Deli. And there's a lot of places that have grown from that. I don't know, you know, what other ones can you name?
At Logan.
Logan's, okay. So it's really raised the level. I mean, your sister Kathleen is at United Bank and has brought you know, a lot about the Zingerman's experience to customer service and marketing at United Bank, which makes it, you know, a great place to have your bank account because they treat you really well. And I think that this whole community has been raised up by the quality. I think you said it well. When it gets bigger, how'd you put it? There's more of a market. Everybody gets to feed from it, and I think that this town has become known for good service. If we could just train the ticket guys at the city, we'd be a lot better off.
Just kind of a comment to piggyback on what Rob said is that, you know, when I first started to take some classes at Zingerman's, you know, I was really interested in all the things you had done, but I kept thinking, oh, they're a 500, you know, person organization or however many people you have now. There's no way I can ever take this to my 10-person organization. You know, we can't have a university or any, you know, it was intimidating. But I would say that I have found ways to apply elements to it, and, you know, it's not going to be the same systematized version, but definitely like open book finance we did implement last year, and it's made a I can't even tell you what a difference it's made to me as a business owner, and to have all of that responsibility for financial education shared among the whole team has just been revolutionary, quite honestly. So I just want to encourage anybody who's listening to you guys thinking, well, that's cool, but you know, I could never do that. You can take elements of it, you know, and even we're in a web design and marketing company. No food except for what we order from Zingerman's related, and we can still apply a lot of the same stuff to our own business. So.
I think related to that, interested in managing people. So your turnover rate is extremely low for any company, and I wonder if you could talk about how you retain people, how you grow people. Derek's talked a little bit about that, but could you say more about that?
Servant leadership goes a really long way. Giving great, I mean, one of our bottom lines is great service, and we immediately thank to our customers, but we have internal great service to each other too. And so that goes an awful long way also to make people feel like, you know, their work is important, that they're important. You know, when I was first starting in, I mean, and maybe people are still hearing it when they're first starting in, but if you really feel like you're part of something great, it really does a lot for you too. And the analogy that Paul uses is, you know, two guys are laying bricks, and you ask them both what they're doing, and one says I'm laying bricks, and the other one says I'm building a cathedral. What we're doing is we're just sharing that vision of a cathedral to everybody. I think that goes a long way to making people feel like they're doing what they're doing is important to them, and it translates to the people around them that are also doing something important. And we call it servant leadership too, and we really support people and them as individuals within a much larger group of individuals that make, you know, the community that's called the Zingerman.
Do you have a resident artist that does all of your artwork?
I think our marketing and graphic staff is about 9 people, and there's a combination of graphic artists, illustrators, and when you see a really unique drawing, it's probably 1 of 2 illustrators, Ryan or Ian.
you guys have anyone who, in a smaller community that wouldn't be competing with your Ann Arbor businesses, just provide all Zingerman products?
Do we have customers that are like that? Absolutely. We have lots of wholesale customers that may sell my coffee and Bakehouse items and candy and creamery items for us. Sort of lost at the moment. We had one really great one in Fenton named the French Laundry, which is no longer any of our customers, but they were our customer for many, many years for all of us. They were great. But there are a variety of them around.
I'm saying if you're looking to start a business, that might be a simple.
Right, and I think that some people do think that, and that we try to warn them. Yes, we can be helpful, but we want you want to have your own identity.
Right.
You don't want to appear to be a Zingerman's. We're not comfortable with that, and it's not very much fun for them either.
You guys also mentioned how much community service. I know that's a big thing for the original. How much that permeates what you do? What is the expectation about community service? And I also think employing the handicapped is another one that I see that you guys are really out there doing. And I just wonder how that plays into it.
Well, we certainly believe it's important to support the community that supports us. And so right off the top, there's giving back to our community. And what is it, 10%
of our NOP is given.
Oh, so it's a number.
Well, there's a dollar amount that is mandated that as part of the thing of becoming a partner, 10% of your profit we give to the community.
NOP stands for?
Net operating profit. But then in terms of hours spent volunteering, it's just highly recommended. We advertise a lot of opportunities for people to participate in the community, but there aren't any strict sort of rules about you must volunteer a certain number of hours a month. It's just part of the culture to want to do that.
It's kind of comes from the sharing aspect of what we do. I mean, we share knowledge, but we also share our time.
Well, the other thing I like is when I bring tourists into town, you guys you're so gracious about showing. I mean, Charlie brought some from North Carolina, and I didn't even really know Charlie, but the next thing I know, I was watching him make chocolate candy bars and he was giving us taste, and that was like a highlight of my relatives' experience coming to Ann Arbor. Amy and Frank will, take you back to the. I shouldn't advertise it.
Okay. I think that we try to operate from a position of abundance of energy, abundance of money, rather than a position of that there's a limited amount and we have to keep it in. And that's something that some of us, me included, you may learn. Maybe it didn't come naturally, but once you're a part of it and you start doing it, it's remarkable how good it feels. It feels like it's the right thing, and it's remarkable what comes back because of doing it, and then it becomes just a personal habit. So doing things like Charlie doing that's just sort of the way it is. We have time for practically everything.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on a question a few questions ago. Is there a copyrighted Zingerman's font?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they did copyright it, and it's called Muno Bold. I don't know if any of you know Steve Muno, who lives in our community here. He used to work at Zingerman's, and then he worked for Borders for a long time. I don't know where he's working now. And he worked at the deli on the retail line. And if any of you have ever worked in retail, you may know you have to make signs. And lots of times people don't want to make the signs, but he liked making the signs. And so that script is his handwriting. And then over the years, people started copying it because it was neat. And then, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, we actually had it, turned into something that we could type.
Just about everything on the wall here is written in normal.
Right.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And can your partner businesses use that?
Yes,
So that's one of the perks.
That's kind of what you get. I mean, I pay for it. It's not just handed to you. So as a small business, you're kind of required to use it, and you have to pay for it. So it's a good thing. It's a challenging thing. It's an advantage thing. Absolutely.
I wonder if some of the audience might just comment in terms of giving back to our speakers today, some of the things that maybe you've taken away, or some of the things that you do in your business that you've learned either by attending a workshop, Marissa mentioned that, or observing or hiring somebody. I know maybe Pam, you've got a lot of experience with that. What are some of the things practices that you've learned from Zingerman's? Deb?
We brought in Stash for IT service training at a company that I owned a while ago, an IT services firm. And it was incredible because, you know, in IT services, you go out, people are having a problem, they're never happy when they see you. It's not like you can feed them and they're happy, you know. So it's a hard life being an IT services guy. And we were able to come in and really define what good service was. Because good service doesn't always mean a person is happy. You know, it means maybe you did the best technical thing. And so really giving people that to hold on to in defining what they did rather than the response always was incredible. You know, and then, you know, we also went through all the responses that you have to do and how you deal with the unhappiness if people are not satisfied, and, you know, and how you bring that to closure at some point. Was amazing for the guys. You know, it was really amazing.
The others, Jim?
I think for us, you mentioned when Kathleen and Craig came from Zingerman's to United and brought a lot of the training piece and Zing training that we've gone through upper management, but having the steps to good service and how to deal with client problems or complaints or issues, and they weren't new things for us, but they reinforced what we were doing and kind of put that system in place, and also just the value, like you said, you know, you get what you pay for. So reinforcing that this is what we're going to charge, this is why, but you're going to get good value for that. I think that's a hard thing to do in a competitive marketplace, to be able to say, you know, it's easy to say, well, we'll give you this deal or cut this down, but then emphasize that that's going to cut the service down. So I think the fact that you stick to your guns there and find that price point is helpful for us.
Our organization is looking at different ways of implementing a variation on open book management. And as part of that, we've had some members of our organization go through the open book management training. And a few of us actually came here to sit in on one of the huddles here at the Roadhouse. I think it's one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen, actually seeing frontline staff who can talk about your metrics in a very informed way. And then actually the gratitude session at the end, actually having people talk to each other about what they've done for each other. It's really, really extraordinary. So I think there's a lot of those things in a lot of different kinds of industries, and think about adopting or adapting in some way. And I think you should be really proud to be working for an organization that promotes it.
You were one of the few. So one thing a couple of things I want to say is, to the point of how do we retain people. Paul says people are never as motivated as when they're on their first day. And our job is to not get in the way, not to ruin that motivation. So I think a lot of what we do is about inviting people to be themselves and to participate. And so all of our organizations have this possibility to have people, most of us are, you know, in the center of the bell curve, okay? There are very few of us who are down here or down here. But what happens is we put barriers up and put titles on things, and we don't let people participate. And our experience has been is when we let people participate, they have a great time, they feel rewarded, they learn, they contribute, and they want to stay, or they happily move on to do other really good things, which is just good for our lives all over. And then I want to put a plug in for the individuals, because we talk about, you know, Zingerman's, but you know what? These guys, they took the opportunity. And so we put out there what our vision is and what the opportunities are, but it really takes a lot of oomph from different people to decide they really want to do it themselves. And not everybody does. Some people want to come here and just punch in and punch out. And some people come here and they don't want the responsibility and the opportunity that we offer, and they decide to leave. So we try to do good things from an organizational level, but our strength is really what people do when they get here.
I told the story in my invitation. I don't know how many of you read it, but I was at the coffee house on Monday, and I do a lot of my work, my writing, and I like this table that part of it looks into the place where they're making the coffee, and then part of it looks out at the coffee. So I see this little kid at a table next to me with his mom and dad, And the next thing I know, they're taking the little kid in to see how they actually make the coffee. Really young to be drinking coffee, what the heck, right? So, and the next thing I see is Matthew. What's Matthew's last name? Matthew Bottery is walking on his hands through the coffee house. What the hell is that? I wish I had pulled out my camera, but I didn't think of it. And there was a guy, Asa, that works there, comes out later. I said, what was that all about? He said, well, this little kid said he was into gymnastics, and I knew that Matthew used to be a gymnast. So I asked him if he would show the kid a few things, and he got up on his hands and walked around. I said, well, that's going the extra mile, on your hands. That's pretty good. I thought that was a good example. And the guy got written up, though, because you were supposed to, what did he break a rule or something?
No, we have an internal system for tracking things like extra miles, and somebody wrote that up as an extra mile.
Okay, good.
I was going to say earlier, I think my favorite thing that I took from working for Zingerman's is the extra mile definition, and I apply that to everything I do. And internally, when I worked at the Roadhouse, we used the good service steps not only for regular customers but each other. And their definition of an extra mile is doing something for the customer that they didn't ask for or expect. So you're not, I mean, while that was great that he walked on his hands, technically because another employee asked him to do it, it doesn't count. You have to think of something that they're not expecting, and I really, so I really apply that to everything and everywhere I go, and giving that to not only my clients but who I'm interacting with as my staff. And Ari, every day I worked here, did that, and you'll always see him in the Roadhouse wandering around with a water pitcher, and 90% of the people at the tables think he's just a special busser that we have, and that's really a big thing. And you're the owner of your company going the extra mile for you. When Rob was talking to Ari about me, Ari emailed me and said, hey, how'd it go with Rob? Did you get the job? And that's amazing. I haven't worked here in 3 years, and Ari's checking in on me, so that's really where the difference is.
Tracking your alumni? That's an interesting, it's one of our goals that we started talking about a year ago. We haven't done that much with it, but it seems like we should. It's an opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I think that we want to, I find this really fascinating. I talked to Amy about 6-8 months ago about this, and I think it's really interesting that we do hear Ari and Paul a lot, and we hear their side of the story, but these are the guys that are, and gals that are, doing the grunt work. And I think it's fascinating to hear the downside of it too, that because it is stressful, and you have all these responsibilities, but you're still an entrepreneur. I mean, you're still running your own business. I see Alan or Steve there all the time. I see, Amy works incredible hours, and so you have both the stresses of being an entrepreneur, plus some of the challenges of working within a corporate structure. So it ain't easy. But I think the good thing is that most of everybody who started there stayed there. I mean, I don't think anybody has, I don't know, but it seems to be all the people that have started these businesses have stuck around.
There's a few that.
So anyway, I think it's great, and I'm sure if you guys have any questions, that they would be happy to stand around and talk for a few minutes if you have time, or go visit them and stick your finger in the chocolate mix. I don't know. Lick the spoon.
It'll watch you next time.
So,
I'm renting space at the back of the Bakehouse. So if you want to come visit me,
bring my kids.
Sure, bring your kids. Yeah, we got machines. We have machines that make chocolate turkeys and put stuff.
Charlie's real name is Dimitri, but he changed it to own the coffee. Really are Charlie and the chocolate.
I really am. Yeah. You wouldn't believe how much fun it is to cover something in chocolate.
Derek, where's your restaurant going to be?
It's going to be right at 9 Mile in Van Dyke, Warren.
Yeah, we've been waiting.
It's going to be a breakfast cereal bar, and it's right on a high school campus with a middle school and an elementary school. So we'll have a breakfast cereal and also incorporate salad and sandwiches and whatnot. So we're really excited about what's getting ready to happen. So thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Pasick. I wouldn't have met this man had I not come here to Zingerman's. And one of the greatest things that any human being could ever ask for is just to have somebody who believes in you. And Dr. Pasick believed in me when 4 years ago I was an alcoholic and I was almost homeless. And to be here now and to be around such a great group of individuals and to have someone with the reputation as him, a doctor from Arbor, who believes in the young minority who all he has was a dream, I couldn't thank my father enough. So I appreciate that.
All right, well, that's a good ending. I'm a little choked up. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all in September. Thank you. We're going to take the summer off.